On February 24, 1978, 5 young men disappeared into the high elevations of the Sierra Nevada mountains. When investigators located the site of their final days, they found evidence that remains difficult to reconcile with the basic requirements of human survival. Just hours before they were reported missing, the group was here, at California State University, Chico. They were seen watching a basketball game, relaxed and jovial as they prepared to head home. They never arrived. Searchers later found their car abandoned on a remote mountain road, and months later, a gruesome discovery was made inside a trailer nearly 20 miles away. The tragedy of the Yuba County Five is defined by a series of choices that remain unexplained. Despite reaching a shelter equipped with heat and food, the men appear to have bypassed the very resources needed to stay alive. The group, Jack Madruga, Bill Sterling, Ted Weir, Jackie Hewitt, and Gary Mathias, were close friends, often called the Boys. They were all homebodies who lived with their parents and adhered to highly predictable, structured daily routines. 4 of the men were described as having mild intellectual disabilities. The 5th, Gary Mathias, was an Army veteran who successfully managed schizophrenia with medication, though he hadn't brought his supply for what was supposed to be a short trip. They were particularly focused on the following morning. The group was scheduled to play in a Special Olympics basketball tournament, an event they had been eagerly preparing for weeks. Given their commitment to the next day's game and their general aversion to the cold, a midnight detour into the high, snowy mountains was a complete departure from their established behavior. Their journey back to Yuba City began at Chico State, a route that should have taken an hour. Instead of heading south on the familiar Highway 99, the car plotted a path 70 miles in the opposite direction, winding northeast into the thick forests of the Plumas National Forest. They left the valley floor and climbed to an elevation of 4,500 feet, navigating a narrow, unpaved logging road that was heavily impacted by winter snow. When the car was found 4 days later, its condition only added to the confusion. The Montego had gas, was undamaged despite the rough road, and barely rested in the snow. Investigators noted the car was not stuck. The 5 men could have easily pushed it free, yet it sat abandoned with the keys missing and a window rolled down. Adding to the strangeness, a man named Joseph Shones reported being stranded nearby that same night. He claimed he saw a group of figures walking in the dark and heard a whistling sound, but when he called out for help, the figures stopped and turned off their flashlights. Abandoning a functional, unstuck vehicle to walk miles into a freezing, high-altitude wilderness marks the first major break in the logic of their survival. It wasn't until June, when the snow finally melted, that searchers could reach the higher elevations. Motorcyclists traveling 20 miles beyond the abandoned car discovered an off-season Forest Service trailer. Inside, they found the remains of Ted Weir. He was lying on a bed, carefully tucked under 8 layers of sheets and blankets, as if someone had tried to make him comfortable during his final days. Weir had been clean-shaven when he vanished, but he was found with a full beard. Based on that growth and his extreme weight loss, dropping from 200 pounds down to nearly 90, the coroner estimated he had survived in that trailer for 8 to 13 weeks. This wasn't a sudden death by exposure. It was a prolonged survival situation that lasted for months inside a dedicated emergency shelter. The trailer was used by forestry crews in the summer and was designed to sustain individuals stranded in the mountains. Just outside, a storage locker contained enough military-style sea rations and supplies to feed all 5 men for an entire year. While some cans were opened and consumed, dozens more sat untouched. Ted Weir had starved to death while standing in the middle of a massive food supply.
The resources for warmth were also present. Matches and paperback books sat near the fireplace, and a large propane tank outside could provide central heat if the valve was turned. None of it was used. Investigators also found Gary Mathias's sneakers inside the trailer, while Ted Weir's leather shoes were missing, suggesting Mathias may have been with him at the shelter for a time. The remains of the other men were found miles away. Madruga and Sterling were discovered scattered on the road leading back toward the car, while Jackie Hewitt's remains were found closer to the trailer. The men who reached the shelter were surrounded by enough food to last for months, yet those resources went almost entirely ignored. Meanwhile, Gary Mathias, whose shoes were left behind, was nowhere to be found. The theory that they simply got lost struggles to explain why Jack Madruga, a driver who valued his car and knew the roads, would navigate such a punishing route for hours without turning back. While some suspect they were chased, the car showed no signs of high-speed struggle or damage, and the autopsies showed no evidence of physical violence or trauma. Another possibility involves Gary Mathias. Without his medication, a potential psychiatric episode may have disoriented the group, leading them further into the wilderness in a state of collective confusion. Each explanation addresses parts of the timeline, while leaving others entirely unanswered. To accept any single theory, one must overlook specific, conflicting pieces of physical evidence found at the scene. 4 of the men died from exposure and starvation, in an environment they were never equipped for. Gary Mathias remains the missing piece of the story. Without him, the choices made inside that trailer, and the reasons for the detour itself, remain out of reach. The mystery of the Yuba County Five endures today, because the forest preserved the evidence of how they suffered, while offering no explanation for the decisions that led them there.